Believe it or not, impeachment is not the only thing in the news today. There is a significant issue before the Supreme Court, and it is DACA. Today, Tuesday, the Supreme Court is set to take up the Trump administration's plan to end protections that currently shield about 660,000 immigrants from deportation. Those would be the Dreamers and the primarily children who were brought here, the adults who were brought here as children by their parents and are kind of in a legal limbo as far as their immigration status. We want to talk about this with an expert, so we flesh out all the details. Pallavi Ahluwalia is an immigration attorney from Texas. Ms. Ahluwalia, thank you so much for being with us today on the Rick Ungar Show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Glad to be here today.
So tell us what the basic issues at stake are here. I mean, first of all, remind us, a lot of our listeners don't need to be reminded, but just to make sure, what is DACA and what is the status of those who are called Dreamers?
So they're the people that were brought into the country by their parents when they were little kids, babies, some of them, and they do not have legal paperwork that calls them residents or citizens of the country. They were just brought in and they grew up here. They know no other country except for the U.S. because they were here since they were kids. But when they grew up and they started to graduate from high school is when they realized that going to college was going to be a pain because they had no paperwork that they could call and apply for simple things like IDs, student aid, all of those kind of things. And I think that's the push at that time that led to the DREAM Act that kept going on for a little while. And after the DREAM Act did not work, then President Obama issued an executive branch memorandum, and this was done in 2012, in June of 2012, and that's when the program started accepting applications, and the applications were made by these kids or young adults, and the application was, don't deport us, but give us some kind of IDs and work permits so that we come out from the shadows, start going to college legally, and start working legally, and so basically don't deport us. So under at that point, that's how that started out. And I think recently, in 2017, when President Trump came on, he said he had the power as an executive to rescind it. And when he rescinded it, he did not do it through Federal Register or do the notice period that's required to remove a rule, and he used the same principle that President Obama had, which is as an executive. And he said it will no longer be in place. And that's what led to a lot of lawsuits. And there's an injunction against this right now, which means that no DACA recipient can be deported, or the DACA program still stands. And that's what the Supreme Court is about to hear today.
So tell us a little bit more about the specific legal issues that are involved. If President Obama put in place an executive order and then President Trump rescinded that executive order, what exactly is being sued over as far as the process goes?
I think what is being sued over is the notice period. What they have said is, so the legal principles that have been quoted are they violate the rescission violates federal law because it requires adequate notice and comment periods before federal rules are changed. And also they've invoked the equal protection and due process guarantees. So I think at this point, giving something was easier than taking it away. So when you're taking something away, then what the courts have found is that just taking it away would leave these people, a lot of them, susceptible to being deported, and they don't want that unless there is something else in place, which would be a Congress's plan to have some new laws that would cover them and protect them.
We're speaking with Pallavi Ahluwalia. She is an immigration attorney from Texas. And you refer to Congress just there, and really that's kind of the key issue, because if Congress had been able to pass a law that solved this problem, I suspect that President Obama wouldn't have bothered issuing an executive order in the first place. Given the current situation or the situation in the next couple of political cycles that you can envision, is there any likely legislative solution to this problem that will help these hundreds of thousands of people? Because it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the best case scenario here, even if DACA or the DACA rules do prevail here, it's just a matter of time until essentially President Trump's rescission of that goes into effect, even if all the due process is taken into effect.
Correct. It would. I mean, if it is that what is being enjoined right now is the fact that you can't just take it away quickly. But then if they were to go through the motions of the notice period and then rescind it, it's still a rescission. Right. So it's going to be tough for the DACA recipients. On one side, there is an argument that DACA is unlawful and ending it also deters illegal immigration. But then if you're making these kids as examples, then this wasn't known earlier, so it would be a good example for others. But what about them? 700,000 of them, right? So I think at some point it would just be fairness, and people who have grown up here, who know no other countries, they have not, I mean, they're English speaking, they've been raised here, they've gone to school here, they know nothing else. So taking them out of the country would be cruel, as it would stand, but we just have to see how this plays out and what the legislative fix would give us. I thought that there was a lot of support for DACA kids itself in Congress, but I know we've had deadlocks as to what can be done and what can't be done. But at this time, I think we're all stuck to looking at Chief Justice Roberts, who's gone both ways on immigration, and see if he holds up to the fact that it is an executive's authority to decide what happens with immigration matters, or if he's looking at anything else that would give the DACA kids a reprieve.
It's something that folks are going to be watching really closely, because I know that Chief Roberts, in a lot of instances, may end up, as strange as it may seem, being the swing vote on this and a lot of other matters. You deal in your practice with immigration cases. What is your direct personal experience with Dreamers? What do you help them do?
So they come in and they want to renew their permits. They're a lot of the ones that we represent are in college, and some of them have gone in from junior college to now they're kind of going on and applying at universities. There's some that have great job offers, and they come in, or their parents come in, and they're always scared, saying that if they take it away, what are we going to do? And, so we deal with a lot of stress with a lot of these families. Of course, these actions have happened because the parents decided to come here and stay back and not go back to their home countries. Some of them, the ones that I represent, came in here on visas but never returned back to their home countries. And so these kids that came in, and a bunch of them that came in were 2 years old, 3 years old, and now have grown up in the U.S., so they know nothing else. So it's painful for us to look at it and say, oh my God, but for the action of anyone, these kids don't stand a chance here. They're not like our kids who are born here and are U.S. citizens. They are, these other kids who just live in the fear when they go to college. And these 5 years have been okay for them, because since 2012, or 7 years, that they've been able to come out from the shadows and just do what they have to do. But if this goes away, then they're going to disappear again. You will not be able to catch them and deport them. They'll just disappear into the system.
It's not an abstract issue. Real people's lives are at stake, and real pain for an entire generation of folks, unfortunately. And I'm glad that you're able to assist them as this plays out. Again, we've been speaking with Pallavi Ahluwalia. She's an immigration attorney in the state of Texas. You can find out more about her at ahluwalialaw.com. That's AHLUWALIALAW.com, ahluwalialaw.com. If you would like to call us about this and any other issues of the day, please give us a ring at 833-711-7425. That's 833-711-RICK. Again, I'm Beowulf Rockland, sitting in for Rick Ungar on The Rick Ungar Show. Please stay tuned.